welcome to ARW. I'm Harold, and today we're going to make another radius turner, radius turning device, whatever, radius cutter. And there's probably at least 10,000 different ways to do it, some better than others. But I don't know if you've seen the ones that are C-shaped, with a C-shaped piece in the middle that turns and holds the tool bit. All right, so you can see the reason that we switched to voiceover. Actually, the whole cause of the problem was me turning up the volume on the microphone to the maximum by accident. I didn't intend to, but I did. And I'll guess all the way through here as to why we've got all the horrible sound. But that's just me turning it up. Now I've got these patterns that I printed. I made them with Tinkercad and printed them with my 3D printer. And these are going to be the patterns for this radius cutter. And I'm going to send this is a cooperative project. I'm going to send this to Chuck Bomarito of Outside Screwball. And you'll see it on his channel, him doing the machining. And then afterwards, the disposal of it, I'm not sure whether Chuck will keep it or whether he'll want to do a giveaway contest or what. But we're going to do something with it, that's for sure. You'll just have to watch him and watch me and figure out what what the fate of these castings will be. Of course, we don't know yet if we're going to have a good casting. Now, when I made this first set, this one didn't have any holes in it. The hole you see there, I drilled that, and it's not in the right spot. That side had no holes, and the other side had some holes. So I had to do it over again. We'll throw those two pieces away. And what's down here on the table, this has the holes that it needs to put pins in them and keep them together as they're, both halves of the pattern. So I made the wall of all the walls of that stuff 2.5 millimeters thick. That way, if that hole's too tight on the pin, I can go in there with a reamer or a drill and remove some plastic, and we still don't get down to the soft inside of this thing. The big pieces, the holes are there where they should be, and you can see that I've got holes in the small ones, and the big ones I already got cut pins for it. I did it the hard way the first time around. I went over to the vise and used my Dremel tool to cut this 1-inch long pin down to 2 half-inch pieces. Then I came back and ground the bevel on the end of it with the belt sander. And then for the second pin, I got smart enough to use the whole 1-inch length in the drill gun. And I forgot to turn on the camera when I was grinding the bevel on the end of the pins. But basically, I turned on the drill and stuck it up there against the belt. And I managed to get a little taper, bevel, whatever, on each end so that they go in real easy. Now that I've done that, we'll go over to the workbench and stuff this thing into my vise and take my Dremel tool and we'll just cut it in half. That's like all the rest of this video. Of course, it's going to be a voiceover. There's my Dremel. Of course, looking at this, you at least don't have to hear all the loud noise of the Dremel, although it's not really that loud, just kind of high-pitched sound. And I'll go ahead and cut this pin, and I'm only going to cut it mostly through, because if I cut it and let it drop off of there, it'll fall on the floor and I'll never be able to find the darn thing, So I've cut it most of the way, and we'll get some pliers and we'll break it off and finish that part of the job. I think that's the best bet. All right, now then, I'm going to flatten out the ends I cut with the Dremel tool, and like a dodo, I got the camera too low for you to see me grinding the other end of it flat, but there you are. I think right here that I've got the sound all worked out, but I don't. I don't need it. I still, at this point in the editing, I don't have a clue as to why I'm having problems. And after a bit, I realized that it's going to last all the way through the whole video. So that's why the voiceover. Right, now that we've got that thing nicely ground and it dropped my tool, uh, we'll get on that. In this video, Mr. Bozo is going to come along and he's going to help me. Uh, After all, I need all the help I can get, and Mr. Bozo is a nice guy that really likes to come help old guys. So once I figure out how to get the pin out of that chuck, and I always have trouble with that. I forget which way to do things, and there you go. I don't know why, but I always have trouble with that chuck. But anyway, these holes are too tight for the pin. They're just a tiny bit, and this is a thousandth over reamer, so it's 251 thousandths. And I'll ream these holes, and then the pin will fit just right, which is, of course, the whole idea in the first place. So let's ream them out here, make it fit, and it takes a little bit when you're doing it by hand. If I do it by machine, it may be too fast and eat too much plastic. So let's see if the pin fits. All right, so there we are. I got both pins fitting all the holes, and the pattern is stuck together like it will be in the final assembly in the mold. So pretty well lined up. Maybe not be totally perfect, but it's pretty darn good. So now we'll just have to get all the other stuff. I came out last night and used those hand mullers that you see, the redneck mullers, to get the sand all moist and stirred up, and so it's ready for us now. All I got to do is open the lid on the and there make another guess as to what happened. The boss lady loaned me some gloves to do this. The only difference is they're small and my hands are medium, but it did save me a lot of misery of digging in the sand and getting it all under your fingernails and all the wear and tear on your skin. But there we are. My green sand, and it's all at the right moisture content, and we're going to get started making the mold. At this point, of course, Mr. Bozo has arrived, and he's going to help me with this stuff. Now then, I've got that huge flask there that I made, and it's wonderful. It's perfectly flat, and all the sides fit together good and everything, because I used my mill to smooth the edges. But every time I go and lay the thing on the board to start, ramming up the mold, I turn the first side of it wrong. I'll either turn it up when I need it down, or I'll get the wrong side to start with. But this time I'm looking it over, and I get the right side, and I get it facing the right way. I mean, that's really an accomplishment, So once I've got that done, and I've got all my tools and stuff accumulated, we'll stack it up right on top of that thing, and we'll start shoveling it. We'll put the pattern in there, and then we'll start shoveling in sand. Of course, I've got to think there a few minutes about where did I put the parting sand, and where's my rammer, and all that stuff that I should have had already done before the video got started. So away we go. Let's go and get all the goodies. Got that thing laying on there, and it's right now I think it's in the wrong orientation, but I'll get it right before I get started. I'm going to have there's my pattern. I'm going to lay it in there. So that little notch on the side there, that was one of the holes that got lost, and then when I printed it, it printed the hole there, so I had some JB weld and fill it up. All right, now I've laid all this stuff in the box. Mr. Bozo's here helping me, and we're gonna ram this stuff up just fine. Got my parting sand. Leave a nice coat of parting sand on everything. I'm shaking it out of an old sock, which I find I guess for me, the best way to put the parting sand on something. And I've got that scoop that I bought to handle lots of sand at one time. It's a lot bigger scoop than I should have bought, but when you're buying a scoop online, it's kind of hard to tell how big it is. You know, how big is a 16-ounce scoop or a 20-ounce scoop or whatever, you know? So anyway, let's get that scoop, Harold. Get busy. Let's get some of that sand out of there and let's put it in. There I am telling you all about buying the scoop. I don't have the little strainer to, make sure all the fine pieces come through there. I just kind of pinch them up with my fingers and try to get it to sprinkle out as nicely around the edges of everything as I can. And it normally works. I know if I were, as good as Windy Hill Foundry, it would be really wonderful all the time. But this ain't Windy Hill Foundry. It's not Mr. Pete's shop. It's not Double Boost shop. This is the redneck shop, and this is the way it's going to be. Okay, got all this stuff now. Ram it down really good, and well, of course that'll take a couple of minutes. But as you can see, I've sped the thing up really fast, so you don't have to suffer very long watching me ramming this pattern. That's always kind of fun, actually. You get to pack the sand down really tight. So that's looking pretty darn good there. I always like to use my finger to make sure that the corners are packed in good and tight. Somehow they sometimes aren't as tight as they could be. But we got it all squared off level, and it's time to turn this thing over. This thing is heavy. It's too darn heavy for an old geezer. And look here, I bet the smarter guys, you already figured this out. Bozo, old Bozo knows about what's going on here. He's rolling on the floor laughing, carrying on. But what I've done is I've put all four of my pattern pieces in there, and I only needed to have just the first half. Now, if I had been smart, I would have pulled those two pieces out, filled the holes in with sand, and went on from there. But I was so shook up when I realized what I did that I just busted out the whole thing and did it over again. And of course, I'll rebuild this thing off camera so that you guys don't have to see it twice. But there you are. Mr. Bozo's helped me to get all four pieces in there when I should have only had two. So there I am. I'm starting it over, and I'm going to do all this off camera, so you don't have to worry about having to watch the whole thing all over again.